If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Two, Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com. All your printing, scanning, copying needs, Gulf Coast Office Products. Talk some Saints, Derek Carr in the next segment, and Connor O'Gara from Saturday Down South in 30 minutes. LSU is in the final two for Bo Bentley's services, according to Bo himself. There's a story up on 3 right now that Steve Wilfong wrote talking about Bentley's plans in the next month as to how he's going to make a decision between LSU and Oklahoma. If you look at Bentley, he is the number 5 quarterback in the country, number 42 prospect overall, according to the folks over at On3. By every service, Bentley is a top 10 quarterback in this upcoming class. He is from Salina, Texas, and is looking to go out of the state, just a bordering state, Oklahoma and LSU. And it occurred to me in considering this that you now have to think about LSU in some pretty glowing terms when you talk about recruiting quarterbacks. Now, I know what happened in the last cycle. Okay, it was right there in the middle of that. We know that Bryce Underwood picked LSU, and then at the 11th hour decided to take $10 million from Oracle. So things like that happen. But when you consider LSU and what the Tigers have become at quarterback, this is now a very, very desirable place to come play. Now, I know that Joe Burrow didn't play for Joe Sloan and didn't play for Brian Kelly, but he did win a Heisman Trophy here, became the number 1 pick in the draft, and was in the Super Bowl in his second year in the NFL. And then a few short years later, Jaden Daniels came here and won a Heisman Trophy and was a second pick in the draft and had the Commanders in the NFC Championship game in year 1. And he did play for Brian Kelly, and he did play for Joe Sloan. And then Garrett Nussmeier is the leading passer returning in college football and is being mocked in the top 5 of next year's draft. So now all of a sudden, you've got this pipeline of quarterbacks that are putting up monster numbers at LSU, going to the NFL draft, getting paid very, very handsomely, and immediately having monster success. And high school players, that especially one that's going to graduate high school in 2026, that means he was 10 when Joe Burrow was getting this done. And these are his formative years. So all he knows is Joe Burrow slinging it all over the place, Jaden Daniels slinging it all over the place, Garrett Nussmeier slinging it all over the place. LSU's just a quarterbacking machine. And you know, if you've been watching this football program for 25 years, that wasn't always the case. So you've got one of the top quarterbacks in the country, and he wants to be potentially at LSU. He's going to visit both schools coming up here at the end of May and the 1st of June. He's going to head to Norman, going to head to Baton Rouge. Said he's excited to go check everything out. I'm reading this from the story that Steve Wilfong put up on 3. And you generally see these guys make a decision prior to that senior year. And then you play the senior year, most of them early enroll, and you're off and running. I feel like I have to put this caveat in every time we have this discussion. Probably isn't necessary, but it occurs to me. Like, I know he could commit and flip his commitment like Bryce Underwood. I know he could come here and transfer like 98% of the quarterbacks around college football, go to one school and transfer to another. I know that there's a reasonable chance Bo Bentley never takes a snap at LSU. Like, that's just the reality of the situation. He hasn't even committed to LSU yet. But I think LSU being in this mix and Joe Sloan consistently putting himself in the mix for high-level quarterbacks and at the same time getting massive production from the guys who were actually on the team is just a huge positive for this program right now. I don't expect Joe Sloan to coach at LSU for 11 years. I don't think he's going to coach 9 different quarterbacks here. Coordinators have a way of moving on, that they either don't get the job done and get let go, or they do a great job and are moved on to a head coach somewhere. But he's the guy right now that's in charge of getting all this done. And right now, LSU's doing a really good job of recruiting quarterbacks. I knew of Bentley's name and his ranking before I looked at his actual recruiting profile, and he is a little bit undersized, like for the prototypical quarterback. I use air quotes for that. Like, he's 6'1", 200 pounds as a high school junior. Usually you're big time, top 5, top 10 quarterbacks are 6'3", 6'4", but that doesn't seem to be as important as it once did. I think that there's a lot of guys running around 6'1", 6'2". Garrett Nussmeier's not a physically imposing dude. And Bentley is a little bit cut from that cloth. He's a Texan, got good athleticism, above average arm, massively productive at high-level Texas football. So he's got a decision to make between LSU and Oklahoma. Ben Arbuckle is the new offensive coordinator at Oklahoma. He came down from Washington State, where he did work with Cam Ward before Cam Ward went to Miami. And then he was with John Mateer last year. Mateer put up some big numbers. Now he's at Oklahoma and is going to be their starting quarterback. And a lot of people feel like he's going to put up some big numbers in the SEC. So while Oklahoma was a disaster at quarterback last year and awful on offense and fired their offensive coordinator in the middle of the season and was a complete mess, there are some attractive things about Oklahoma to this point now that they've kind of overhauled everything. The concern I would have with going to Oklahoma is Brent Venables is very clearly on his last leg. They're like, if he doesn't win this year, he's not going to have a job. If he does, that's fantastic. But there's a possibility that a change could be made if Oklahoma wins 6-7 games again this year, and the schedule is very, very difficult. So that's one deterrent for me about Oklahoma, but players don't generally think in those terms. They just like to talk to the guys that are there, and Arbuckle's been a productive guy in terms of developing quarterbacks. So right now, on threes predictions, Oklahoma has got 44.8%, LSU's got 23.8%, Florida State, Ohio State, Georgia are all there as well with some ranks, but he's eliminated them. It's just LSU and Oklahoma. They'll both get visits in the next 3 weeks, and you should get a decision from Bo Bentley here coming up. I think it's important to grab a quarterback most years in the high school ranks. I just think it's good to have some of those guys. I know that LSU right now has Nussmeier, and then you went and got a transfer in Michael Van Buren. Colin Hurley is back with you. And you got Juwan Johnson running around out there. But I think it's important to add quarterbacks at high school. You understand the risk of them transferring is extremely high. But it's still worth getting one in there and just seeing if you can develop them and if they stick around. If you can't, then you got to go to the portal and make something happen. LSU's comfortable doing that as well. But I don't think you just abandon recruiting freshman quarterbacks. I think you'd like to bring some of those guys in if you possibly can. And LSU has done a really good job of that. Nussmeier's panned out to be a really, really good one. They were right there. I think they did a great job recruiting Bryce Underwood. A freak circumstance happened there where one of the richest people in the world literally decided to get involved, and that's a battle you're going to lose every single time. But right back in the mix here with Bo Bentley. And, of course, you're aware that LSU has some real ties to quarterbacks in the following class, with Elijah Haven being here in Baton Rouge and then Colton Nussmeier being Garrett's brother over in Texas. So there are natural ties to those two guys in the year behind. So you got to keep recruiting those guys with the understanding of their risk, of their flight risk. But I think LSU will do everything they can to try to get Bo Bentley in this class. And by all accounts, they've got a reasonable chance to do that. We'll find out his first intention here in the next couple of weeks. But I wanted to chat about that to start off the hour here on this Monday. We're brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. When we come back, Derek Carr was making some phone calls trying to go play for somebody else. Let's talk about it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show. This is The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Monday show is brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. All your printing, scanning, copying needs, Gulf Coast Office Products can help you out with that. Shout out to Trey Beal, whole team over at Gulf Coast Office Products. They can help you wherever you are in the state of Louisiana. They got offices all over the state, including Baton Rouge, up in Shreveport as well, down in New Orleans. Got tons of resources, lots of equipment, a great staff. It's very, very helpful. But the customer service you're going to receive from Gulf Coast Office Products is going to be fantastic. It can be Trey as your account representative or someone else on his team, but they are phenomenal from that perspective. So if you're looking for printing, scanning, copying equipment, Gulf Coast Office Products can help you out with all of that. Beck, I don't have a ton of pride. Like, I get things wrong all the time. There are plenty of things that I don't really understand. I don't understand almost anything that is going on with this Derek Carr and the Saints split. I cannot figure out what is going on.
Yeah, it's one of the more
puzzling.
It's one of the more puzzling things that we've had in Louisiana sports wise. I'm not really sure I can try to think of other things that have happened like this.
Let me just go down the list of the things that I just don't quite get about this. I don't understand when the injury occurred. I don't understand how severe the injury is. And then when I start to learn more things like we did over the weekend where Jeremy Fowler and Kat Terrell reported that before he announced his retirement that his camp had spoken with two teams in the market about potentially playing, I don't understand how a guy who has to retire due to medical reasons with his shoulder, who's he going to play? How can he can play or he can't play?
Yeah. What would he do? Because was he going to, like, was he talking to teams saying, "Hey, I'm going to retire from the Saints and then come out of retirement and play"?
Well, that's
for
not
you?
how contracts work.
No, it's not.
So the Saints own your rights. So it again, like, this doesn't make sense. I tried to make it make sense in my brain, and I was like, well, what if this is what happened? Like, he didn't notice the injury in January and February, and then he started noticing the injury in March, and he felt like he could potentially have the surgery, sit out a year, then come back and play. And at that point, he could make it clear to the Saints, who had just drafted a quarterback, and he wasn't going to play this year, so they would be moving on from him, and he would kind of be in the background trying to rehab and then play. But then I find out that the injury is so severe that he couldn't play, is the impression I got. If you read the verbiage of it, the Saints doctors diagnosed him with a torn labrum and significant degenerative changes to his rotator cuff. That, to me, degenerative suggests to me that it's not getting any better.
Yeah, like it's getting worse.
And that you can't play football anymore. And so I don't understand, like, who he was going to call. Like, what, he couldn't play. Certainly not this year. Or could he have played this year? And then I don't understand why he's basically forfeiting $30 million. Is it because he fears that he hid something from the Saints and could be susceptible to litigation? Like, I hesitate to sit here and speak in absolutes when I don't know all these fishy things that are going on. All I can say with, like, some degree of confidence is, like, this is bizarre, and somebody's not acting in good faith at some point. It just feels like it was not handled right.
Yeah, it really is strange, man. I whenever the news came out first that Derek Carr was hurt and that he potentially may miss the whole season, it just felt so weird, the timing of it. And then you go to, okay, actually he has such a bad injury that he has to retire. He medically retire because he can't play quarterback anymore. It's just,
I mean, are these reasonable dots to connect? He got hurt. He could not play this season. He wanted to play moving forward, but he did not have any interest in ever playing for the Saints again. But nobody wanted him, so now he retired. Is that a feasible thing? Because I feel like that's, to me, seems unlikely. I feel like someone would take Derek Carr on their team.
Somebody would.
He is not the worst starting quarterback in the NFL.
Somebody would take him, even if it's just. Now, it's a question of whether or not Derek Carr would sign up for, going to a team where he's most likely going to be the backup. Maybe he has an outside chance of starting. Maybe it's a team that has a rookie quarterback and they want to bring him in and he can start for a year so the rookie can just sit on the sideline and kind of learn for the first year. But to me, I would be surprised as well, though, if there wasn't a team out there that would have been interested in taking him. Maybe it was just he wanted to start somewhere, and if he wasn't going to be able to start, he's like, all right, if I can't start, I'm just going to retire.
Which of these two extreme scenarios is more likely in your opinion? One scenario. Derek Carr gave everything he could to the Saints, played through injury, did the best he could, wishes the organization well. He did out of the goodness of his heart just say, I didn't really earn that $30 million, so we'll give that back to the Saints. It just stinks that it didn't work out, and if I had to do it all over again, I would do it. I enjoy my time there, and I'm going to move on and retire. Like that happy scenario, or this side where he thinks that the organization is dysfunctional. He hated his time there. It was a huge mistake to sign with New Orleans instead of the other options that he may have had, and he resents the organization, and in so was deceitful and did not disclose his injury until too late a date, and now feels bad about that. So he's not going to fight over the $30 million. Like, which of those seems more plausible to you? Oh, shucks, it didn't work out, or I really made a terrible mistake signing with the Saints?
Man, that's hard because everything's like, say what you want about Derek Carr, but he has always, at least in terms of media-wise, like he was always pretty forthcoming in media.
Until the last 5 months.
Until the last 5 months. And he played through injuries, which also, that's like great and all that he was willing to play through injuries, but also at the same time, if you're hurt, don't play because you're not going to be as good as
the first year he overdid.
He did. So with more of the evidence for me, I would lean towards saying the first scenario is the most likely of the two. I don't know, but you just never know. You never really know people. You never really know, especially athletes. You never really know them. Like Derek Carr, for all we know, he really could have really hated his time in New Orleans, and this injury kind of gave him a chance to get an out, and maybe he didn't disclose that injury when he got it. You would think that if you got hurt like that, and maybe he was, I don't know how the doctor stuff works. I don't know if he can go to doctors outside of the team, or like if you're under contract. So I don't know any of that stuff, but if he knew he was hurt and didn't tell the Saints and waited until he came back to the team and then they found out he got hurt, that would seem a little bit odd to me too.
That deal about you never know, I always live by that. And I just don't care about stuff off the field. I pull for the laundry. If you put on my team's colors like I'm in, I was fully aware when Aroldis Chapman was on the mound for the Cubs in 2016 that probably not the best dude. The guy took an automatic weapon and shot up his garage in frustration, and terrified his girlfriend or fiance. Like, that's probably not the best dude, but he's got my uniform on and I'm trying to win. Like, go play. And I don't care who my guys vote for. I don't care what their political stance is. Like, I think Anthony Rizzo is salt of the earth dude. He's a great guy and helped out the charities a ton. I think the same like Jason Hayward with the Cubs. Like, I don't know. So I just don't care about any of that. Like, just unless it starts to affect how the organization runs and how people perceive you in the locker room, and like if it fractures the culture. And like, just looking from the outside here, it appears to me that something buckled here with the Saints and Derek Carr. I don't pretend to know exactly what it was, but like, what an odd divorce that I just did not see coming in October. Like, I just did not see it. And we certainly have at this point. I think there will be more that comes out about this in the coming years, maybe. Maybe Derek Carr gets into some media. A lot of quarterbacks have done that, and maybe that he tells some story there. Maybe Dennis Allen or Mickey Loomis says something down the line at some point. Maybe a reporter digs something up. But
maybe he makes
there's a lot of haziness around this whole deal.
Maybe he makes a video on his YouTube channel.
Yeah, reviews a car and then tells you what happens with his shoulder.
Yeah.
Wow, that was special stuff. Either way, he needs a new PR team because it was not great over the last 5 months for Derek Carr and company. All right, I want to see if the All SEC team is posted on SECsports.com yet. It doesn't appear that it is. Let's see if we have it on LouisianaSports.net. I wanted to kind of guess a few, but if we don't have it, here it is.
Oh, here it is. I see it.
So the player of the year was Wahiba Lloyd. That's what I would have guessed. Pitcher of the year, I'm going to guess that's Liam Doyle. That is correct. Freshman of the year, I'm going to go Dylan Volantis,
That's
Texas.
it. Ding.
What else do we have? Is there another
Coach
award?
of the year?
That will be Jim Schlossnagle.
Yeah, I hit ding on the thing.
And
but
it didn't work.
Yeah,
All right.
there.
Who else we got? We got another category.
I don't see any actually
Okay.
right now. Let's see.
And then LSU, you told me in the break that you got Cade Anderson and
Zach Cowan.
Zach Cowan on the first team. That works for me. I got the first team in front of me now. Rylan Galvan, awesome at Texas. Luke Heyman. Oh, 2 catchers. Interesting. Andrew Fisher, Tennessee, monster year. Gavin Killen was awesome at Tennessee as well. Ace Reese at third base for Mississippi State. That's probably going to be an interesting transfer portal name, if we're being quite honest here. Hit 20 home runs for Mississippi State. They're moving on. He was at Houston last year, Mississippi State this year. That's a guy that I would really like to see in Baton Rouge if he were to jump in the transfer portal. They do have Ike Ayers listed as an outfielder. Charles Davilan, who hits leadoff for Arkansas. Cade Snell at Alabama had a monster year as well. Zach Root and Dylan Volantis on the first team. Kyson Witherspoon as well. I thought Anthony Heinsohn had every bit as good a year as Zach Root, just on the top of my head.
Yeah, and he finished strong too, which usually bodes well.
And then as far as second team goes, Derek Jones, Daniel Dickinson, Derek Curiel, Anthony Ianson on that list. Freshman, Derek Curiel, and Kason Evans. All defensive team. Cade Anderson, all defensive team.
Sam Dutton, also second team.
That is all defensive team. Cade Anderson, he played really good on D. I guess that's a weird one to vote on.
Choosing a pitcher is, especially choosing a pitcher for all defensive team is probably not the easiest thing to do.
I know early on LSU's pitchers were accounted for more than half their errors for the first 4 weeks of the season. So yeah, there you go. That's the all SEC teams. I don't have a lot of beef there. I would like to see Anthony Ianson get first team recognition, but I'll take him when regional time rolls around. Y'all can have the rest of the guys. I think he's throwing it pretty dadgum good at this point. All right, Monday show is brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. We'll come back with Connor O'Gara from Saturday Down South next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Vaughn and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. If you're in a home that's got one of those big 80s, 90s style jacuzzi tubs, it takes up a ton of space and you don't ever really get in it, well, take it out. There's a lot of space there that you could be using properly. So take out that huge tub that you don't use, put in a walk-in shower. Changes the look of your bathroom, changes the functionality of your bathroom. Another thing that David Duvall and his team do a lot is you've got one of those stand-in showers that's just a little square and you'd like a little bit more space, do that tub to shower conversion, and then he can turn that shower space into a closet that can put some of your things away in the bathroom. It's that type of stuff that they can get real creative with. They can customize it to exactly what you're looking for. And he's the only phone call that you have to make at One Bath and Closet. You don't have to call 4 different contractors to get it done. You just call One Bath and Closets. Go to the website, onebathandclosets.com. You can get that free consultation, see pictures of their awesome work. You can also see some reviews from their satisfied customers over the year. It's David Duvall and One Bath and Closets. Find them online, onebathandclosets.com.
This is The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Hope your work week's off to a good start. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Our Monday show is brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. I was scrolling through the old Twitter machine today and I saw a tweet that said, taps Mike, clears throat. LSU is winning a national title in 2025. That tweet was authored by Connor O'Gara from Saturday Down South, and I thought, well, I've got his phone number. Let me text him and see if he'll come on and say that on my show. So we will. Connor joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Connor, thanks for the time. How are you on this Monday?
Doing really well. Some would say that I just joined, or I just, probably threw that out there just so that I could join your show and get the great people of Baton Rouge fired up.
Well, let's do it. I appreciate it either way. I don't feel like that was probably the intention, but it certainly was the result. Why do you feel this strongly about LSU as we sit here in May?
I'm one of these people that has looked at everything Brian Kelly has done and just been amazed at everything that we've seen in the portal suggests this is a team that senses urgency. And you could have probably assumed that LSU would act this way after Garrett Nussmeier announced that he was coming back. But let's not forget, at this time last year, everybody's dragging Brian Kelly because he's the one talking about the bidding war and, it's Dominic Williams. They don't want to go after this guy or that guy in the portal. Do they really get it? Are they really built to win in this day and age? And then you look at this roster and what it's become really since the beginning of December. And to me, they've just addressed every single key area of need. And if I'm winning a national championship in this year, 2025, wherein the 12-team playoff exists, I'm not necessarily caught up in, do they have, the pieces to go 12-0? I think LSU will lose a regular season game, but I think by the end of this playoff run that they go on, they will have all of these things figured out. And I think that Brian Kelly has finally put together a roster. He's finally put together a coaching staff, and he's finally put together a belief that LSU was all in, and that's why I think they get it done this year.
Would you take Garrett Nussmeier over the other 15 quarterbacks in the SEC?
I would. I've been saying that since when was my first way too early ranking? Probably January, I think. And I understand the flaws. I think he could actually get better as a downfield passer despite what his profile suggests he is. I think that'll happen with someone like Nick Anderson on board, someone who I think people forgot about because he had a lost 2024 season, but in 2023 at Oklahoma was the only player at the FBS level that had double-digit touchdown catches that averaged 20 yards per catch that was doing that at the Power 5 level. So to me, this is a receiver room that has gotten significantly better around Garrett Nussmeier. And Aaron Anderson, someone that people don't talk about enough. I ranked him as my number 3 receiver in the SEC coming into this season, only behind Ryan Williams and Cam Coleman, because what he did out of the slot to emerge as Garrett Nussmeier's go-to threat was huge last year. And, the late Kyron Lacey, he endured a lot of ups and downs, and Aaron Anderson was kind of the steadying force. Now he returns, and he's got 2 pieces on the outside that'll complement him really, really well. So I like everything that Garrett Nussmeier has to work with, and I like another year of being able to work with Joe Sloan in that offense to understand where those reads are so that he's not having some of these predetermined mistakes that obviously cost him at different points last year. But I just think he can do everything that you want a passer in this day and age to do.
I don't think many people in Baton Rouge have a lot of concerns about the passing game. I think everybody understands that LSU is going to throw it pretty well next year. The running game is a big point of contention because they just had 4 offensive linemen drafted, and they couldn't run the ball behind that group. So do you feel like the running game should take a step forward even with those 4 guys out the door?
Did they have a true identity last year that Brian Kelly liked? That's the point that I think is worth remembering, because they had Caden Durham step up and become what looked like a guy, and then it never really kind of formed into, well, he's going to get 20 carries a game. You can trust him to be like, hey, he's 120 scrimmage yards. And I think so much of that was because LSU felt the need to throw the football. They felt like that was their true strength. The way that their offensive line was built, they're like, we know we can pass protect. We're not necessarily this break you open, huge, massive holes type of ground game. And I think this year, with the moves that they've made in the portal, they have the potential to be that. Now, I don't necessarily think they need to be a world beater ground game to get the job done. I think the key thing, and the thing that every LSU fan should be looking for, can they close a football game running it? Because they couldn't last year, and that was to their detriment. It cost them at several different points, most notably that season opener against USC. But to me, it's more so about running in situations than putting up 200 rushing yards a game or something like that, because the passing game should be able to do a lot of the heavy lifting.
We know what championship level defense looks like around here, and they hadn't been anything close to that really since 2019. What gives you the confidence that LSU's defense will rise to that championship level from what it's been the last 3 years?
You can be a top 20 defense and win a national championship. Now, so much of the question is going to focus on what are they looking like with that interior defensive line. The Bernard Gooden addition coming over from South Florida is going to be really important with that. If he's able to step in post-spring and provide that lift in the interior, that's going to be really big. But Whit Weeks coming back healthy and looking like the guy is going to plug a lot of different holes, I think. And that's going to be something that is worth well documenting because of the Harold Perkins return too. And how did those guys play alongside one another, with Perkins playing at the star position, not necessarily having this full offseason of reps because both guys are coming back from injuries and whatnot. That's going to be the thing that we're going to talk about a lot probably in the first part of the season, understandably so. But I think Mansour Delane coming over from Virginia Tech is going to also plug up a lot of holes in a secondary that has had no shortage of those over the course of the last few years. And I just think the year two step that they'll take in Blake Baker's defense, where they're not necessarily going to have to be wondering about their specific roles the first month of the season. Oh, how does Harold Perkins fit in best? They're going to have these things figured out. To me, that gives me a lot more confidence that this group cannot necessarily be a liability that it's been really for much of the 2020s.
Connor O'Gara is our guest. You can follow him on Twitter at CJ O'Gary's with Saturday Down South. Thinks the Tigers are a national championship pick in 2025. As I look at this LSU team, there's some that are suggesting now or never for Kelly. You got the investment from the boosters. You went hard in the transfer portal. You've got the fifth-year senior quarterback. Do you feel like it's a now or never type proposition for Brian Kelly, or do you feel like the window remains open even if this is a disappointing year?
I think it's now or never. And I think it's now or never from the standpoint of Brian Kelly winning a national championship at LSU. I don't think now or never describes his job security for this year. I don't think that means, oh, man, he's getting fired if they don't do X, Y, and Z. Now, if they're missing the playoff this year, and this is a team that never really puts it together, it's an 8-4 regular season, and we're looking up at the end of the season going, man, I don't think Garrett Nussmeier is even a first-round guy. Sound the alarms. That's going to be perfectly fair. And as someone that is predicting great things for this LSU team, I will say, man, Brian Kelly is not the coach that I thought he was, because there's no reason why this team shouldn't be not only competing for an SEC championship, but competing for a national championship. And especially at a time when, let's remember this too, there's not the big bad Nick Saban. There's even Kirby Smart coming off of consecutive years in which the team has failed to make it to the semifinals. There's not this dominant, inevitable force in the SEC, and that could benefit a team like LSU that just needs to kind of hit those right notes in the key spots, and they're going to have no shortage of opportunities to be able to do that. I'm interested to see what it's going to look like if they have potentially multiple games against an SEC contender like Alabama, like I've projected for them to be able to have one of the regular season, one of the playoff. But yeah, this is a now or never year with the talent that Brian Kelly has, a very much no excuses type team.
Well, we're going to learn pretty quickly, and right out of the gates going to Clemson. Do you feel like LSU is ready for that? They've lost 5 season openers in a row.
Reluctantly so, I do. And I'll say this. It's one of the more bizarre things in the world that LSU hasn't won a season opener game since 2019.
Yeah.
I mean, I cannot fathom how absurd that is. I've been meaning to look this up. This is an off-season project of mine to see if LSU is the only power conference team to have not won a season opener in the 2020s. If it's not, that list is really low. I mean, let's not forget, Vandy even beat Virginia Tech last year. So like that list is dwindling in a hurry. But here's the thing. They can lose that season opener and still get to all the places that LSU is being projected by crazy people like me. That can still happen in this day and age. Ohio State just showed us you can be 10-2 if you have a team that has that high ceiling. That's what it's all about in this day and age. Are we overrating Clemson a little bit? Just a little bit, because last I checked, that team went 0-3 against SEC competition last year. And I realize it's a little bit different as we're talking about LSU in season openers, Brian Kelly in season openers, all those things. I get it. But we're getting a little bit ahead of our skis to assume that all of a sudden Clemson's going to be dominant against the run, to assume that all of a sudden Clemson can run the football, which was something they could not do to save their lives last year. Might be getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. And let's not forget, Louisville went into Death Valley and dominated. South Carolina went into Death Valley, won that game last year. So is LSU capable of doing that? Yes, despite what 2020's history would suggest.
He's Connor O'Gara. You can read all his stuff at Saturday Down South. We'll catch up SEC Media Days next month. Connor, thanks for your time.
Hey, appreciate it, man.
He is Connor O'Gara. Saturday Down South thinks the Tigers are a real threat to win the national championship. In fact, his pick to win the national championship in 2025. It's going to be a fascinating offseason and a really fascinating season. That's the long and short of it, because there are a lot of people that agree with Connor that it's now or never for Brian Kelly and LSU. I don't necessarily subscribe to that. I heard T-Bob say the same thing as well. Like, If LSU goes out there and goes 9-3 this year and doesn't make the playoff at 9-3, kind of like Ole Miss did, like, I think you just go get more good players and try again the next year. Like, I don't think every single possibility is shoved into this right here. Like, I think it's important. I think they've got a real chance. I think they made a big investment, but like, there aren't that many schools that can win the national championship. And LSU is obviously one of them. And they will be the next year and the next year and the next year. So I'm not one to put all of the eggs in one basket because I just don't think that's the reality. But I'm on an island with that because obviously, like T-Bob said that, and Connor feels the same way as well. So we'll see. But it's going to be a highly anticipated year to be sure. So thanks to Connor for giving us a little time here on this Monday Talk a Little Football with us. We got one segment to go, and then we're getting out of here on a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is the website. Every car that is on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. Every single make and every single model in the line of Genesis vehicles was given the IHA top safety pick. All of them. Because they don't cut corners with safety at Genesis. You can be assured when you get behind the wheel of a Genesis vehicle that you're behind the wheel of one of the safest cars on the road. Entry level, highest end, all of them got an award. You can get behind the wheel and you can feel the comfort and you can look at the style and you can test drive and see all the fantastic features, but you don't know how safe a car is unless somebody else tested it. They certainly have done that at Genesis. So if you're looking for a new vehicle, you want to be sure you're in one of the safest cars on the road, get on by Airline at PQ across from Women's Hospital and get behind the wheel of a Genesis. You will feel the difference. You'll have a wonderful experience with their brand ambassadors. You can be a Genesis driver. Genesis of Baton Rouge. You can find them online. GenesisofBatonRouge.com. GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge Spring Cha-Ching, powered by Citizens Bank and Trust, is back. Register now through tomorrow, on May the 20th at 1045ESPN.com for your chance to win $5,000 in cash. We will announce the winner on Wednesday. It's the Spring Cha-Ching from Citizens Bank and Trust and 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. And actually, our Ducks Unlimited promotion is ending today. You can join us on Friday, May 23rd at the South Stadium Club in Tiger Stadium for delicious food, drinks, and the ultimate allocated 100-bottle bourbon raffle hosted by Ducks Unlimited. Plus, participate in live and silent auctions and raffles for rare whiskey bottles. Sign up at 1045ESPN.com for a chance to win $100 in packs of raffle tickets and the grand prize, a $500 raffle pack. For tickets and more information, visit dubourbonraffle.com.
A bummer of a weekend for LSU softball.
Yes, that's a mild way to put it.
He's just losing to Southeastern is not a good look. Like that is, it's significantly worse to lose to Southeastern than it would be to lose to Liberty or UConn or like somebody that wasn't from right down the road.
Yes.
And if you lose to Southeastern on a Tuesday in March, like, okay, whatever, that stuff happens. But on your field in a regional, twice is just a really, really tough pill to swallow if you're LSU. And like Veterina has consistently put LSU right there in the top 16 every year. But the lack of the trips to the Women's College World Series is a little bit disappointing. It feels to me kind of like Mark Richtish, where like, yeah, they're good.
They're always good.
Everybody likes Veterina. She's a good coach. She's great in the community. She's been here a long time. She's won a ton of games. They're always good, but you're not winning games in Oklahoma City. And so sometimes, you know, Kirby Smart's next, and sometimes Phil Fulmer leaves, and then you've got Derek Dooley and Butch Jones, and you never get your head above water. So again, I'm never going to come on here and talk about coaches losing their jobs, and I'm certainly not qualified to assess the softball program. But I do know that losing in a regional to Southeastern is a tough look, and that's one that's going to sting for a little bit. It appears Sydney Berzon's potentially in the transfer portal. I think I saw that just over the last hour. So she's kind of been their ace the last couple of years. I know Heavner throws harder and is probably a bigger talent. But portal giveth, portal taketh away. So Just tough deal for LSU softball as their season comes to an end over the weekend. Shockingly, A&M's did too.
Yeah.
And the number 1 overall national seed, and they lose in the regional. First time that's ever happened in 25 years. Not a great weekend for A&M athletics, if we're being honest. A&M lost in softball, and they were the number 1 national seed. They lost in the women's tennis national final, and then the baseball team lost 2 out of 3 to Georgia, and I believe needs to win the SEC tournament to make the NCAA tournament. So tough time in Aggie land.
Real tough.
I don't know if do we think their softball team blows a lot of bubbles too, or is that just a baseball thing?
I don't know. I mean, they definitely play in a different park, so I don't know if it's just specifically for Blue Bell Park or maybe the softball team does it too.
I was talking to Chris Blair at the box when LSU hosted Arkansas, and they had just come back from College Station, and he said when he walked into the stadium on Saturday, a woman walked in front of him with 2 like super soaker level, like these huge plastic bubble guns.
Yeah.
That were looked like they were 2 feet long. Like, my goodness. I don't quite get that one.
Yeah.
That one doesn't jive. Do we have any take it or leave it?
Yes.
Awesome.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Just take it.
All right, first one here. We have our conference finals set for the NBA. It will be the Thunder and the Timberwolves. Shout out Naz Reid getting in there. And the Pacers and the Knicks. The NBA is not happy with these conference finals. Take it or leave it.
I'll probably take that.
I'll take
That's
it.
not ideal, but I will say this. As a very casual NBA guy, like I'm not an NBA diehard, I'm not an NBA every nighter, obviously. The Knicks playing big-time basketball
That's
in
good.
Madison Square Garden is good stuff.
It is.
You got Ben Stiller out there. You got Spike Lee
Timothy
out there.
Chalamet.
You've got all the stars coming out. I went to one Knicks game. They played the Magic when Glenn Davis was there in New York one time. And MSG is just a cool place to go. There's an energy and a buzz in there. And the Knicks have been crappy since the 90s. They had one little bitty spurt there with Carmelo where you thought they might be decent. But they've been bad for 20 years. And them selling that place out, getting it buzzing, that is very, very cool. But the Pacers are not going to be playing the national brand. Certainly Oklahoma City's a tiny little market. And then the Timberwolves, that's the same type deal. So, yeah, you'd really like the Celtics and Lakers and Warriors to show up.
Maybe the Nuggets, yeah.
Yeah, this is not ideal, but again, there's a tilt of the pendulum because of the Knicks and Madison Square Garden that makes that relevant.
Yeah, if the Knicks can make the finals, the NBA will be okay.
Yeah.
Even no matter who they end up playing, because it doesn't matter if it's the Thunder or the Timberwolves.
I bet Manhattan is freaking awesome
Oh
right
my
now.
gosh.
That is such a Knicks town. They love the Knicks even when they're bad. And so that's because I don't think there are any Nets fans. I don't think those exist.
Yeah.
Like the Yankees, there's way more Yankees fans than Mets fans, but there are a lot of both.
Yes.
There's a lot of Giants fans, a lot of Jets fans. Basketball's all the Knicks, and so that's a cool deal. That people the streets have got to be on fire.
Yeah, I think you can probably compare it. The Knicks have always their fans are always there. I think you could compare it to the way the Cubs were. The Cubs always had great fans, and then finally in 2016 it came together, and that was just an incredible. Even if you weren't a Cubs fan, it was just awesome to see a good fan base get rewarded. So I'm happy for the Knicks. It's good that they made it so this far. All right, we'll just have one more here. We got about a minute left, but. Scotty Scheffler, of course, won his third major yesterday. I would say cruise to a 5-shot victory. John Rahm gave him a scare on the front nine, but then fell apart, probably because he didn't play a lot of golf these days. Scheffler will
hated
win.
To see that, by the way.
Really hate
Darn.
it. Yes, really sucks. Scheffler will win at least 6 majors before he retires. Take it or leave it.
6?
3 more.
I'm leaving that.
Leave it alone.
I think more people would say he will, but it is so hard to win one of those golf tournaments.
It is.
He's the best in the world right now. There's no question about that.
He's won 3 before he turned 30, and I think Jack and Tiger only other ones to do that.
So he's great. He's already a Hall of Famer, but it's 3 more of those is really, really tough. Rory just went 10 years without winning one.
Yeah.
So it's just really tough to get to.
Yeah, it's going to be. This will be the most interesting thing in golf for the next 2 or 3 years is whether or not he can keep up this run, because we saw Rory, we saw Jordan, both those guys went on a run for a few years where they just were winning a
Everybody
major or
loses
two.
it except Tiger.
We'll see.
Everybody loses
we
except
will
Tiger.
see if Scotty is the next one.
If he can make it. And there's some aspects of his game that are Tiger-ish, especially from the iron play. But it's great to see him win that. Sorry to Bryson. You got a lot of money,
tough.
but you still have to wear clip art on your clothes. Hate to see that. Not Bryson. I was talking about Ron. Either way, don't want either one of them. They both have clip art on their clothes. That's it. You missed any of the show today. Catch it on demand. Matt's about to drive you home on After Further Review. We're back tomorrow, same time, same place. It'll be a Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.